Good afternoon, my name's Alex, I'm an addict. And I've been asked to share my experience, strength and hope, and focusing on the early years in Johannesburg. And what's interesting is even, talking about the early years, I feel when I come to a meeting, particularly when there's somebody puts a microphone in front of me at a meeting, I feel anxious and I feel new at this. It's something that I've never got used to doing. I've never felt relaxed. I remember the first convention that I went to, there was a guy who organised the convention, Alan, and he was going to share. And I said to him, "Aren't you nervous?" And he said, "I'm not nervous." And I thought, one day I'm going to feel like that about sharing. I'm going to not be nervous to share in front of a crowd of people. 11 or 12 years later, it hasn't happened yet. I still feel anxious. And I still feel anxious about the same thing, that somehow there's some kind of expectation that you have of me to share something profound or perhaps that I have of me to share something profound or something that you've never heard before or something. And the truth is that I get anxious because I don't know anything new. I haven't got a different message than anybody else to carry. The kind of beauty of this program for me is in the simplicity of it, it's so much a known quantity, something that we all know. And I say this time and time again, and I believe this, that if you've done 90 meetings in 90 days, you know everything there is to know about this program. That's when all the learning occurs. And that for everybody who's been through that experience of 90 meetings in 90 days, that's all there is. It doesn't get more complicated. It doesn't get more difficult. It doesn't get cleverer. It doesn't change the longer I stay clean. For me, it's always been the same program that was introduced to me when I first came to these rooms. And the other thing that I think is one of the things I believe about this program is it's the same the world over. I've been to, when I was first introduced to Narcotics Anonymous in London in 1985, and I went to a church hall next to the Chelsea Potter in the Methodist Church in Radnor Walk, just off the King's Road. And it was a room very like this. And they had a small stage. And, there was a bunch of guys standing at the front sharing. And there was a whole bunch of people sitting exactly as you are. And the meeting, they read out all the preambles, the exact same preambles. And then a speaker from on the podium spoke for 10, 15 minutes. And then people shared from the floor. And, that was in what they call a church hall in London in 1985. And here we are in a church hall or a recreation centre in Joburg in 2006. And it's the exact same thing. And I think, that's good news. I think that's, for me, something that makes me feel less, less embarrassed of what I'm doing here. And the incredible thing is that it works. And it works, and it works, and it works, and it works. And that's why we do it. And that's why I do it, because it works. And it worked for me, and I've seen it work for people that came in long before I was in the rooms, and I'm sure it'll work long after. Anyway, my son's here, so I mustn't swear. Which is difficult, I swear quite a lot. I swear quite a lot. And there's something I read about moving from the culture of addiction into the culture of recovery and swearing. We're supposed to leave that behind. I've never read that in any NA literature. That I have to do that. I mean, it would be nice if I could, I agree, but I don't have to. I can still come here and swear and then John will edit it out. Experience, strength, and hope. One of the things, I'm embarrassed to talk about the early days in Johannesburg because I came here, I got off a plane in December the 2nd, 1994. And I just come out of my 12th rehab centre and relapsed, as I tended to. When I came out of treatment, the first thing I wanted was a beer. And I consistently did that, and it didn't work. You said it wouldn't, but I thought maybe I'd make it work one day. And my parents said I'd lied to them, which I did, with monotonous regularity. Lied to my parents about being clean, and I was off drugs, and it was all fine. And in fact, I've got my 18-month key ring, and it's all going really well. And I was absolutely pathological about that stuff. I came to NA and shared my 1 year, and I'd used earlier that morning. I thought it would help. I don't know. I thought I was getting better, because I was coming to meetings and, lying to everyone in the rooms. Anyway, I was lying to my parents and that I'd been clean, and they said, why don't you come to South Africa? And the only question that I had for them is there Narcotics Anonymous in South Africa? And so my mum, being the good codependent family member that she was, found out and, phoned people and found out, and there was. And I arrived, I think, on a Friday, and I slept on the Friday, and on a Saturday, I went to a meeting, and it was in Yeovil. It was the Yeovil meeting, and there were a number of people. In fact, there were, I think, 2 or 3 people that were at that meeting that are at this meeting today. And so Narcotics Anonymous was kind of fully formed when I got here. It was completely functional, or completely dysfunctional, depending on how you want to look at it, as it is. Sorry, boy. Did I break it?
No, it still works.
Oh, good. And so, the early days, there was, all the people who got up and shared before, formed the fellowship. I just joined it and, became a member and enjoyed the benefit of the work that everybody else had done. And in fact, there were 3 meetings a week when I got here. One at Yeovil on a Saturday. There was Hillbrow, which was the big meeting, the big Academy Awards meeting. There were up to 25 people there, which was huge in those days. And then there was Monday, Hillbrow also, which was tiny, and in the other room because it was so small. But it worked, it worked. And there were people with clean time. And we used to have to bring a book. And we used to do this, and everybody read the book as the person read it out. And it was disciplined, and it was, we had some control freaks that got it going. But I take absolutely no credit for it. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with the setting up of Narcotics Anonymous. It was just a member. And what was interesting about it was I came from London, when I got clean in 1994, the fellowship in London. I think there were kind of 145 meetings a week in London at that time. And, you could go to 10 meetings on any given day at least. And I came here, and the meeting that I went to that Saturday was exactly the same. They did all the preambles, and it was all exactly, and then people shared, and the stuff that people shared was exactly the same. And the kind of stories, the experience, strength and hope was the same. And, and I used, the fellowship to get well. And it worked. And lots of people that I did it with used the fellowship to get well, and it worked. And it's not, it says somewhere, I'm sure, or is that Monty Python, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together. Is that Monty Python, isn't it? Or is that NA? Oh, it's the Bible. Okay. And Monty Python and NA. That's a meeting. That's a meeting. If 3 addicts or 2 addicts get together and share their experience, strength and hope, that's a meeting. And, that's been my experience. There were You know, there were always at least two of us at every meeting. And then we started a breakaway group, Wednesday Parkhurst breakaway group, because we knew how it should be done, and we were going to do it the way it should be done. And I don't know. It was all, everybody got on. There wasn't all the kind of politics, eh? Nah, I'm being teased from the audience. I love this fellowship. I've loved this fellowship since I came into it in 1985. I've been here for 21 years coming to meetings. And I didn't stay clean. But, they didn't chase me off and they didn't, tell me I wasn't welcome anymore. People would say, I've relapsed again. And they go, that's all right, mate. Come in, sit down, have a cup of tea. Don't share, just listen. And for 9 years, that was the story, I came to meetings and I wasn't ready, I couldn't do it, I didn't do it, I don't know, I haven't really looked back and made sense of why not. I just didn't. 9 years, I came to meetings, went into rehab, tried to stop using and didn't. And nobody ever said, you're not welcome here. No, well, that's not quite true. I was at a meeting once in Chelsea, and the pot went round, all the money at the end. And I looked and there was about 12 quid in it, so I ran out the door with the thing. And they weren't happy to see me back when I came back to that meeting. But apart from that, I've always been welcomed back in these rooms. And what's interesting is, I think I came to these rooms pretty unwell. Pretty emotionally, mentally, spiritually unwell. And I came in and I didn't get well straight away. Or yet. And I didn't get well straight away. And so, unfortunately, these rooms are acted out a lot of my unwellness. And I think that we do. Do you know what I mean? And it's important for me to remember that I came into the rooms and I wasn't well, and so I wasn't well in the rooms. I did stop using drugs eventually, which was good. But some of the other stuff, took a bit longer. And I think that, I've got to remember that, because there's a tendency to get, well, maybe this is just me, but I think it's all of us, but let me just say for me, to get judgmental about people coming into the rooms and kind of shitting where we eat, as it were. Can I say that? And there's a kind of tendency to get judgmental about that, but all I can say is, it's going to happen, and I did it, and I think, we do it, and that's not a good thing, but it's a thing. Patrick always says to me, the traditions, the steps are there to protect me from myself, and the traditions are there to protect you from me, and me from you. And I think that, those things are needed for those reasons. I think this is, just the most incredible fellowship. It's, in its essence, I can get also bogged down in the politics and in the personalities and in the he said, she said, and the gossip and I think whenever you're going to get, 150 or 250 or 350 or 15,000, really unwell people in a room together, stuff's going to happen. But I think in its essence, what we're trying to do here is just incredible and incredibly beautiful. And one of the things that I've always felt in these rooms is loved. I've felt a lot of other things as well, but I've also felt loved in these rooms. And I think that, that's what I came here for. And somebody said to me, and they actually said this to me when I came to South Africa, it was the first time I'd ever heard it, was, we're going to love you until you learn to love yourself. And that's what happened to me in these rooms in Johannesburg, was, I didn't have a car for the first year that I was here, and Janet picked me up and took me to meetings 3 times a week for a year and dropped me home again. And that's Janet. And You know, it's a fellowship, and it works like that. And, you know, and I think that I've seen so much love and so much care. And there are men in this room who I tell regularly that I love them. And I mean it. And I don't feel embarrassed about it. I love them. And they're the kind of, I don't know, they're the family that I wished I had. I do have a family, and I love them too, but it's kind of complicated. This is not. You know, this is not. I owe my life to the people who, you know, came and shared at the beginning of today, and to Herman and, you know, Janet and Gareth and Larry and Alan and Jeremy and a whole lot of people who came before. And in fact, you know, one of the things that I have to say made Narcotics Anonymous very attractive to me when I came was Regina, who was this gorgeous girl who was at the first meeting and came over and gave me her phone number and said, you know, keep coming back. You know, so I did, you know. And Jan and Mordecai and man himself. And, you know, I mean, all my life, I'd be dead. You know, I had a very, 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 very serious drug problem. I did, you know, and I tried to kick it. And I couldn't stop myself from getting up in the morning and shooting heroin. You know, it was just such an entrenched behavior. I couldn't help myself. I got up in the morning. I made promises before I went to bed. I guaranteed myself. I meant it. I used to break my syringes before I went to sleep. Break them all and throw them in the bin. I wake up the next morning and change my mind. And, you know, I honestly believe that was a death sentence. That if it hadn't been for Narcotics Anonymous, would have killed me. And one of the things that I, you know, egocentrically believe is that I had this major, major problem with heroin and other drugs. And God created Narcotics Anonymous just for me, so that I could live. I don't know. And that's, you know, where I came from in London, God's not a cool word in the program. And one of the things that I really love about the program here is that people use the word and mean it and don't feel embarrassed to say it. And the other thing that I find in these rooms is God. I find God here. And if we are all quiet, if you can ever get, you know, a whole bunch of drug addicts to stay quiet just for a second, you can feel him. Or at least I can feel him. You know, and I get a tangible sense of God. And I know that I couldn't have done this without that. You know, that when I was ready, this was available to me. And, you know, I owe amends to people in recovery, and I get angry, and I get resentful, and I get judgmental, and I have bad days, and I get self-righteous, which is my best one, is self-righteous. I'm right and you're all wrong. Do you know what I mean? But in the end, I'm willing. I'm willing to look at my part. I'm willing to change. I'm willing to make amends. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to stay clean. And as soon as I reached that point of being willing to do whatever I needed to do to stay clean, and the other thing, the other rider to that is not only what I thought I needed to do. Yeah, I had to find somebody that I loved and trusted and ask them what they thought I needed to do, and then follow that, because I couldn't do it without that. And in fact, my first two sponsors when I came to South Africa are both in this room. And both helped me through those early years, and I wouldn't be alive and I wouldn't be clean if I didn't have that guidance. And so, I mean, I really don't have anything deep, profound to share with you. If you want to know, how this thing works, read the book. It says it beautifully. It says it beautifully. And one of the experiences that I hear again and again and again and again of people sharing is that they read the book and they believed it was written for them, about us. And I've read the book and I thought it was written about me. How did they know this stuff? I never shared that with anybody. And yet it was in that book. I met my first wife in England in the rooms. She 13-stepped me, and we got married. And we relapsed together, and we shot heroin together. And if we wanted to get clean, we had to, separate. And we separated. And, she is celebrating 12 years clean this year. And I met my second wife through, in these rooms. And that didn't work either. I 13-stepped her. And that didn't work either. But, God knows what he's doing. And, David's proof of that, my son. And, I've laughed in these rooms. I've cried in these rooms. I've acted out in these rooms. I've behaved in these rooms. I've found God in these rooms. I've lost God in these rooms. Do you know what I mean? But one thing I know is I ain't leaving these rooms, because I've been out of these rooms and had a look around. And it's a big, scary world out there, And I can't manage that on my own. I need to come here and get some grounding and get some spirituality and get some love and go out there and face it. And it's you lot. What's interesting is the faces change. But that's all. The message doesn't change, the vibe doesn't change, the love doesn't change, the presence of God doesn't change. It's only the faces that sometimes do. And thanks for letting me share. And good luck, England.